You know where I am? I am at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and we're going to take you today on a behind-the-scenes look. Talk to some scientists, talk to some engineers, and talk to some media relations people. And we're going to ask them some questions about their careers and find out, hey, what's it really like to be a scientist? And we're going to tell you right now. Come on. Hey, Kevin, remember you said you talked to me today and well, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about your job and stuff?
Exactly.
Okay, Kevin Hussey. So, first thing I want to know is you're interested in science.
Oh, yeah.
When you were a little kid or when you were in school, was there some event that happened or some mentor that you had that really pulled you toward a science career?
Well, as far as when I was a small child, my mother still tells me stories about taking things apart. I would get a new toy, I'd play with it briefly, and then I would tear it apart. Of course, I didn't have the skill to put it back together, but I loved seeing how things worked. And this translated throughout my life.
So, what advice would you give to a student who's in college today who maybe is interested in a career similar to the one that you have?
Okay, my best advice for students is number one, be really good in your field of study, no matter what it is. But secondly, have a saleable skill, something that you can do that an employer can use immediately.
So why don't you tell me how your diverse skill set in computers, technology, art, and science, how does that actually impact your daily life? What do you do as your job with all those skills? It looks like maybe you do something with this.
Okay, well, one of my favorite things to do is to communicate about Earth science to a wide variety of people.
And so this is the Earth.
Here's the Earth. What we did in this case is we took video game technology and we merged it with scientific data. And in this case, we have the positions of all of NASA's Earth-observing satellites. I was asked, how can you show how involved NASA is with Earth science? I said, well, why don't you let me show people just how involved we are. So here is NASA's entire fleet of satellites, and we use video game technology to pull this off.
It is pretty amazing. I mean, just to stand back, and that's a wow. This is a wow, I think, for most people.
Okay, but what's really cool about it, it isn't a cartoon, because there's a button here that says real time. So if I push this button, this shows me where those satellites are right this
now.
Second.
That's amazing.
And if you want, you can double click on one of those satellites, and we can actually go down and see what it looks like and precisely where it is. I'm going to go ahead and hit this track button, and right below you'll see a line being painted. That's how fast the Terra satellite moves across the ground as it's orbiting the Earth. And of course this is a 3D model, so I can zoom all the way around, and this is precisely where it is. Out of all the people that work with me to create this, only one of them went to school to become a computer programmer.
Right.
Only one out of my crew of 7. The rest of us had other fields of expertise.
Such as?
Well, I'm a physical geographer, I have an aeronautical engineer, system administrator, I actually have a full-blown artist.
That's awesome, a full-blown artist.
Yeah, we actually have,
to do full-blown art.
Well, to do our models.
Yeah.
I was doing the models and they were terrible.
But of course, all these people had to have some kind of interest, even if it wasn't their degree. They had to have a love of science somewhere.
They had to have a love of science, and they had to have something that would allow me to hire them, a skill they could bring to the table and we could put on the screen. I
asked Annie, who's a friend of mine, and she works here at JPL, and she's a science communicator, and I asked her to come and meet me here. Hey, Annie, come say hi.
How you doing?
Hi, come on, sit down, baby. Hi, good. So I wanted to talk to you today just a little bit about your career, and I want you to, the first thing, just kind of tell us what inspired you or what got you started when you were much, much younger, all the way back, let's say, even to a little kid or to school. How did you decide to take this career?
I've always been interested in science. I've always been, when I talk to students now, I say, are you nosy? If you're nosy, you're a good candidate for science.
Say that again?
If you're nosy, you're a good candidate for science. Because that's the essence of science, is asking questions and then just being a little bit more than that and trying to find those answers.
So I've heard a lot from people that that mentorship opportunities or mentors are really important when people are deciding their career. So you've got an interesting mentorship story.
Those people I could go to at any time with any question. Remember, I said I was naturally nosy, so I could go to them at any time and say, hey, you know, how does this thing work? How come this image looks like this? What makes this look like this? Why does this work like this? And they'd always say, okay, sit down. Or I just come in and sit down. Very
Welcoming.
Yes. And inviting of the questions.
So I want you now to tell me about, like, what do you think is the absolute best day you ever had at your job?
I got selected for a Space Flight Awareness honoree. You got to go on a trip to Florida, to Kennedy Space Center, and you got to see a launch.
So you've seen the space shuttle launch. What would you say to students who are either in college now or people who are thinking of going to college now about their careers? What kind of advice would you give the next generation?
If you're in college now, stay in there. Take different classes in different subject areas other than your major. Because again, now I get to talk from a liberal studies perspective. It gives you some tools to even make what you do better, because you can see, you know, how somebody else might be thinking about.
Oh, that's interesting. So having your liberal arts degree in a place that's dominated by perhaps science and engineers give you this perspective that they must have in order for their work, and you feel kind of like an integral part of the whole picture.
Yes, yes.
We're standing outside the Earth Mission Center, Mission Control, and I'm waiting for my friend Mark Physician, who's going to take us inside, and he's going to show us what it's like to fly these satellites. I wonder where he is. Hey, Mark, hi. Come on. Nice to see you. So you're going to take us inside, right?
Yes.
Let's go.
Come on in. This is Mission Control.
Tell us about this room. Where are we? Where have you brought me now?
Well, this is the satellite control room, Laura, and this is where we do our operations for the satellites that we watch here at JPL.
So I know that you're used to using all this lingo. When you say operations, break that down. What is operations supposed to mean?
Well, think of a satellite as a machine. It's a robot,
Okay.
and it just happens to be several hundreds of miles up in the air in orbit.
Okay.
And so that machine has a function. It's looking at the Earth or the atmosphere or some feature that is of scientific interest. So as we look and orbit the Earth with this satellite, we need to tell it what to do. Engineers have degrees in mechanical or electrical engineering. You can also be aeronautics majors, people that major in aeronautics. Again, my background happened to be in physics and chemistry, and being a relatively involved science background, I was able to get a job as an engineer.
Okay, so tell me about your best day ever.
My best day ever.
Yeah, ever,
That sounds
ever.
like a
It's like
SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Well, I think it probably, when you've been working on a satellite for years and years, and then finally you get it up into orbit and you see that you're getting the data and telemetry back from it, and that it's working.
Was your heart screaming? Were you
Of course. It's it's like I guess any other profession or job where you work for a long time to get to a particular goal, and you achieve that goal, and of course it's exciting, exhilarating, rewarding, all the above.
Yeah.
So certainly afterwards, when you leave the building and you realize that this was successful and all that work paid off, certainly you want to jump up and down and go
toast
out
it out.
and
Okay.
Absolutely.